Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Rookie Card Collector 123 video. Today's episode, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to take a look at the collector versus the dealer. And what I'm talking about is if both types attend a card show, so the dealer is not going to be setting up in their capacity as a card dealer at the show. They're going there strictly to walk around and look to make purchases. And the same thing, obviously, for the collector. The collector's there to walk around and look at making purchases. And I want to take a look at the different mindsets, at least from my viewpoint, how a collector conducts themselves at a card show as opposed to how a dealer goes about their business at a card show. I've put in many, many years on the collector side, so I feel that I'm pretty informed to talk about that. I've also put in not nearly as much, but the past maybe 4 years or so, I've been doing things, looking at things from a dealer standpoint as well. Much of my business is done on eBay online. But and there's also an investor side of things, which kind of I think takes a little bit from each side. So let's get started. Collector going to a card show. I guess the number one thing I have on my list is the mentality of the collector is buy what you like. I know many YouTube content creators have been preaching that for the past few years now. Most of the content creators tend to be on the collector side as opposed to the dealer side. So it kind of makes sense, why we would be hearing that a lot on YouTube videos. Buy what you like is obviously just what it sounds like. You should not be concerned about what other people think of the stuff you're buying. If the other people like it, if it compares to things that they're showing on their YouTube channels, you should buy what makes you happy, what makes you enjoy the hobby. And as often as your taste changes or your likes change, is as often as you can feel free to just, liquidate what you had if you decide it's time that you rather move on to something different. I know, at least from my standpoint, one of the only ways I can raise funds to look for something different that I like or I want is I need to then move something that I have now to raise the money to do that. So buy what you like. As a collector, that's pretty much the motto. On the dealer side, however, you're kind of in the opposite boat, so to speak. So as a dealer, looking through things from that capacity, you've really got to look to buy what other people like. You've got to be up on what the current trends are, what people are looking for, what's popular today. What's popular today was much different than what was popular 10 years ago or 20 years ago, or even maybe last year. So as a dealer, you've got to stay up on hobby trends, hobby news. You've got to buy what the mainstream collector, the public, so to speak, is looking for. Buying stuff that you like might be nice for a conversation at card shows, but when all the stuff's out on the table and people are commenting, "Wow, you've got some interesting stuff there," but how much of that stuff is actually putting money in your pocket? So from the dealer standpoint, it's really not buy what you like. It's buy what other people like and what the public likes. And that's the kind of stuff that you need to have out at your table or on eBay or whatever your medium is for selling. Next one I'm going to talk about is you're at the card show, you're a collector. So a couple of common things that I always see, both as from a dealer standpoint and from another collector standpoint, is the collector typically is going to be the person that's digging through the boxes of commons. I know a lot of collectors that are set collectors. They, for the most part, they can only go to the big regional shows because there's dealers at those shows that specifically carry boxes and boxes of commons from every Topps and Bowman set from the 50s, 60s, 70s. And this is the kind of stuff they need to complete their sets typically. It's quite easy to track down the Hank Aarons and the Willie Mazes and the Mickey Mantles as long as you have the money to afford to buy them. It's finding the commons. Sometimes there's high numbers in different sets and different series. Those are the things that most dealers at a local card show are not going to be bringing those boxes. They typically don't have a lot of table space. The booths at the card show, the table at the card show, the cost is not very much. So they're going to put out whatever is going to move quickest, whatever's the easiest to transport back and forth. And boxes of commons that you're going to sell for $1 each or 50 cents or a quarter is not the is not going to be the way to go from a dealer standpoint. So the true set collector is going to be the one digging through these boxes of commons at card shows. Another thing the true set collector is going to be digging through tends to be the bargain boxes. When I was doing dealer stuff years ago, over the years, I made sure I had a lot of bargain box kind of stuff. A bargain box doesn't have to be $1 or less. Bargain box could be $5, $10. But it's stuff everybody wants to get a good deal these days. So it's stuff that you put out on the table. Collectors love to dig through, find something for $1 that they feel is worth $5, or they need for the collection, or whatever. Maybe they're going to use it to resell even. So digging through common boxes, digging through bargain boxes, those are all favorite things of a true collector to do at a card show. On the other hand, the dealer going to a card show, the dealer, of course, everything is about making money. And I'm not talking about the dealer like the PC side. Most dealers also have a personal collection as well. I'm not talking about the personal collection side of being a dealer. Basically, at that point, you're a collector, just like the true collector would be. So the dealer is really probably not going to dig through common boxes. There's no purpose to that, unless they're trying to liquidate some near sets they have and they're trying to fill in a few missing pieces. But I would say that's very rare. Bargain boxes, again, like $1, $5, $10 cards that they feel are a bargain. Again, they've got limited space when they're setting up at shows. They've got costs when they're selling online. And dollar cards, even if the dollar card sells for $2 or $3 and you think that's a nice rate of return, you've got to sell an awful lot of those dollar cards at $2 or $3 to make any kind of significant difference. So the dealer at the card shows is generally going to be looking at showcase material almost exclusively. They're looking at stuff where they can pick up a card for $50, $100, several $100s, thousands of dollars, and buy it at a price where they're able to resell and make whatever their desired margin for profit is. Could be 20%, 30%, 40%, whatever, 10%. So the card show, the collector, like I said, looking through boxes, dealer looking through showcases, I would say, for the most part. Next thing I'm going to look at is when you're looking for a certain card, you're not just looking for the card and the good price, but you're looking for the condition. So the true collector, the eye appeal, you're looking for a card, generally, it's going to be for your own collection. It's not going to be for resale. Eventually, one day, you may look to sell it. But the purpose of you buying it is not to buy something that's going to be attractive that other people are going to want to buy. For the most part, you're the end buyer. You're buying it for yourself. So eye appeal, as a true collector, oftentimes, and probably more often than not, supersedes the technical grade on the card. So if a card is a 1 or a 2, and this is very common in today's environment over the last few years, there's many YouTube content creators have done videos about how people should look for eye appeal as opposed to technical grade. And that's definitely the case in today's market. So as a true collector, you're looking for eye appeal over technical grade. If a card is a 1 and it gets it makes it a lot cheaper for you money wise, and you can pick it up for the price of a 1, that's the ideal situation. Or a 2, the low grade type of stuff. The dealer, on the other hand, is looking for not the best eye appeal regardless of the grade. What they're looking for is the grade is very important from their standpoint, because the grading enables them to have a comparative scale to look at for past sales and pricing, also known as comps these days. So the dealer is very much interested in the technical grade on the card, and they're going to buy cards that have the grade or the price point they want to be at. And that's going to very much depend on the technical grade, regardless of eye appeal. But what the savvy dealer is doing today is they're looking for that technical grade that they want at that price level. But beyond that, they're looking for the best eye appeal card at that technical grade. So it's a little more specific, a little more involved. It's probably going to take the dealer a little more time to find the ideal card, with that being the case. Although they have to turn over cards if they're not buying, they have no inventory, they have nothing to sell. So they can't always be that picky, but ideally that's what the dealer wants. The dealer wants the price point that he's looking to put out on his table, but at the same time, he wants the best eye appeal possible at that specific grade or that specific price point. Whereas the true collector is looking for the most part, the best eye appeal card, and ideally the most affordable as well. So there's a lot more liberty there, I guess, is my point with that. The collector tends to be on, most collectors tend to be on somewhat of a limited budget, and the budget is all relative to, your personal lifestyle and other things. But the budget tends to be more limited from the collector side as opposed to a dealer side, mainly for the reason I just said. If the dealer's not buying, there's no inventory for them to sell. And if they can't sell, obviously they can't make any money. So the dealer's got to be have a bigger budget to be able to buy enough stuff to put out at their table to resell in order to make money. And assuming they're doing this for to support themselves, their lifestyle, the dealer is typically going to be paying bigger bucks at card shows. The dealers are going to be catering and making deals probably more with the dealer because there's a lot more money coming in from them than there is from the true collector that might have $10 or $20 or whatever, to spend at any given table. Okay, the collector, the true collector, in my opinion, tends to have fewer resources in terms of where to go to get the cards they want. There are savvy collectors that utilize all the resources that a dealer uses. But for the most part, I would say the vast majority of collectors are picking cards from a much more limited pool. And that could be because that's what they're comfortable with. That could be because that's what they know. But most collectors, they'll go to their either local card shop or local card shows. Maybe a larger show, regional show, if it's, close enough and they can get out to it and they've got, the funds that it makes sense to actually do that. Most collectors nowadays buy on eBay. A few of them buy on other trading sites, such as Twitter and Facebook and some of the social media sites. And a few people also buy from auction houses. Generally, when the collector's looking through auction house stuff, obviously they're looking for something they need for their collection. Oftentimes though, they'll work with a couple of specific auction houses that they're comfortable with. Not typically the 30 or so that are out there selling sports cards these days. The dealer, on the other hand, is much more aggressive when it comes to looking for cards to pick up. Again, for the same reason we've talked about already. They need to stock inventory. So the dealer's not only going to his local card shop or his local card show. When he's setting up at his card shows, he's aggressively looking to buy from collectors that attend the show, people on the other side of the table. So that's a resource that a dealer has that a true collector doesn't. Dealers are typically buying online from some of the more mainstream websites these days where cards are very actively traded, like Whatnot and some of the other online sites. They're almost all involved heavily in social media these days. Again, Facebook, Twitter, other social media sites where cards can be traded with minimal fees involved. Obviously, eBay. And then a lot of dealers do a lot of buying through the major auction houses as well. And they tend to be buying higher dollar cards a lot of times. So that's the major auction houses tend to focus more on that as opposed to the other, the more economical, better deal type of cards. The other thing is the dealers will look at the major auction houses in a different way than the collector will. The collector, like I said, is looking for something they need or they want for their collection. The dealer's looking at the major auction house stuff for inventory, which is kind of similar to the way the collector's looking at it. But the biggest difference with the dealer looking at major auction houses is they're looking for, based on, let's say, the auction house estimate, what they feel the item's going to sell for once it closes. The dealer is looking for, let's say, the final day, what items are the most below what the auction house estimates are. So in other words, the biggest bargains, at least up to that point. And there are a lot of dealers that'll scour auctions on the last day and just strictly look for stuff that's below what it should be selling for, and maybe put in a bid. And if no other bids come through, they're almost guaranteed to pick up that item then for below market and help their margins for resale. And there are dealers that, for the most part, make most of their living doing that kind of thing. So that's a major difference how a dealer looks at auctions, major auctions, as opposed to the true collector. Okay, another major difference is the true collector, especially somebody who's looking for the non-mainstream type of stuff, so the rarer, scarcer stuff. The true collector, if they do come across it, let's say at a local card show or a larger show, or in a major auction, they come across a card, they've been searching for it for a year or two or more. The true collector is aware that this card is scarce and rare, and their availability is obviously very limited. And they don't know when they're going to see or if they're going to come across a chance again to buy it. So the true collector, when it gets down to price, is going to have a much harder time walking away from a card like that. Again, unless it's totally beyond your budget. Assuming that it's at least somewhat affordable, the true collector is going to have a very hard time walking away from that card. Again, whether it's at a show or an auction or whatever, because their chances, again, to pick it up could be extremely limited. The dealer, on the other hand, everything is about the margin, the resale, the money end of it. The dealer is going to have no problem walking away from any card They have to keep their personal feelings. Again, back to what we said in the very beginning. The dealer's not worried about what they can't be worried about what they like when they're buying cards to resell. They've got to be worried about what the public and what the collector likes. So there's no card that they can be so attached to that they can't let it go, and they're going to be willing to overpay to get that card. The dealer really doesn't have to worry about that. They should not be in that position, assuming it's not a PC item. And like I said before, I'm not talking about PC items for dealers. Then the dealer then becomes a true collector, and they move to the other side of the fence. So that's another huge difference between going to a show, the way the true collector looks at things and the way the dealer looks at things. Dealer can walk away easily from a card if price doesn't work. True collector might not be able to walk away very easily from a card if it's rare. Okay, the last thing I have here on the collector side is collectors typically want to acquire certain items for their collection, whether it's set building or player collecting or whatever. But very rarely does the true collector look to buy multiple items multiples of the same item, such as different conditions, things like that. For the most part, if a collector's looking for an item, it's for their collection. Once they buy one of those items, there's really no need to continue looking, assuming you're not going to look to upgrade the condition. And if you did that anyway, you would still be probably looking to then resell the other one that you had before. The difference with that is the dealer, any high-profile card that's a liquid commodity, the dealer is going to be looking to pick up as many of those as possible, the exact same card. So the dealers that turn over big, let's say they're into big rookie cards, the dealer's not going to have any limit on how many Willie Mays rookies, Hank Aaron rookies, Roberto Clemente rookies, Mickey Mantle rookies. The dealer will pick up as many of those as he can get at the right price. The true collector is probably going to look to pick up one, and they're going to move on to the next thing that they're looking for. So that's another major difference. So there's probably a lot more out there, but I thought this would be a nice little fun exercise to go through, kind of comparing how a true collector looks at things at a card show when they're there walking around looking to buy stuff, as opposed to when a dealer goes to a card show and they're there walking around looking to buy stuff, not set up in their dealer capacity. And like I said, I've had experience on both sides of this. The third type of individual in the hobby is the investor. And like I said before, I think the investor probably takes some qualities from one side and some qualities from the other side. I don't think there's enough differences and things for me to do a whole separate segment on investors. That's why I didn't really make 3 columns here in this episode. I just did a comparison between the two, the collector and the dealer. So anyway, I hope you found some interesting information in today's video. I hope you liked it. Have a great day, and I'll catch you guys again on the next one.